Okay, so this is section 10.4, using square roots to solve quadratic equations. So there's a couple things to remember. When you take the square root of a number, you actually get two solutions, and then also you cannot take the square root of a negative. So when we go to solve this, we would basically, we're down to the last step where we take the square root of both sides, and we would get x equals plus or minus 3. So your calculator is only going to show you positive 3, but it's actually plus or minus 3. So on the next problem, we have left to get x by itself. So divide by 2. You have x squared equals 4. So you square root both sides. And then you have x equals plus or minus 2. Okay, so for the next problem, we need to get x squared by itself. So you add 18 to both sides. You get x squared equals 0, square root of 0. So x equals 0. Here you subtract 12. X squared equals negative 7, square root. Okay, you can't actually do this, so this answer would be no solution. All right, 4x squared equals 9. Divide by 4. I would choose to leave this as a fraction instead of making it a decimal, because 9 and 4 are both perfect squares. So then you would get x equals plus or minus 3 halves. Here we would add 25. Get x squared equals 25, square root. X equals plus or minus 5. All right, now we're getting a little more complicated. So we're looking at multi-step equations. So first we would add or subtract. So subtract 12. 5x squared equals negative 20. And divide by 5. So x squared equals negative 4. So at this point, we can't do that. So you're going to write no solution. All right, next we would subtract 11. 2x squared equals 0. Divide by 2. X squared equals 0. And the square root of that would be 0. All right, for this problem, we would need to start out by dividing by 25. So x squared equals, and again, I'm going to keep it a fraction because these are perfect squares. So now square root, so x would be plus or minus 4/5. For this problem, I need to start out by subtracting 64. So 49, x squared equals negative 64. Divide by 49. They are both perfect squares, so I would keep it like it is. Okay, and then that happens to be negative, so I cannot solve that. So this would be no solution. All right, so the instructions here say round to the nearest hundredth, which means we're going to go ahead and calculate a decimal. So first I would need to add 11, and then I would get 3x squared equals 18. Divide by 3, so x squared equals 6, and then we're going to go ahead and calculate to the nearest hundredth. So x equals plus or minus 2.45. Here we're going to subtract 4, so x squared equals 10, square root. X equals plus or minus, and then to the nearest hundredth would be 3.16. All right, here we need to go through and do the same thing. We're calculating to the nearest hundredth, so you would add 1 and get 3x squared equals 1. Divide by 3 and get x squared equals 1/3, and then take the square root of that, which to the nearest hundredth is plus or minus 0.58. Okay, so here we're working with another fraction. So that's 4.5 square root. You would get plus or minus 2.12.